Liam Neeson is a man built from thunder, shaped by sadness, and blessed by fate with a life that never ends in movies. He was born poor, worked his way up from factory floors to become a Hollywood star. He played Oscar Schindler, a man who saved lives in a war movie. He became the tough father in Taken, and the calm Jedi master whose peace could stop a storm. His voice can move mountains. His eyes show deep, quiet sadness. But even heroes feel pain. The man who saved thousands of lives on screen once couldn't save the woman he loved most when she died in his arms. And since that day, the storm of being alone has never truly gone away. Now at 72, under the fading light of fame, one question stays in the air. Has he finally found peace? Or does darkness still hide behind those calm eyes? Every legend starts with a hurt the world cannot see. For Liam Neeson, that hurt began long before fame in a small gray house where silence raised him better than comfort ever could. He was born on June 7th, 1952, under a sky the color of ash. The Neesons were good people stuck in hard times. Roman Catholics in a Protestant town. Working-class souls trying to stay proud while counting pennies. Their home had 3 rooms, 6 hearts, and walls thin enough to hear each other breathe. His father, Barney Neeson, swept the halls of a school he could never afford to send his son to. His mother, Kitty, cooked for other people's children and came home with hands red from hot water. There were no fights, no yelling, only the quiet distance that being poor builds between 2 people too tired to dream. Liam was the only boy among 3 sisters. He slept in a narrow corner, a quiet child in a noisy world. His Aunt Molly's kitchen was a safe place. But beyond her door, the world drew invisible lines. Religion divided neighbors. I felt like a second-class citizen, he would admit years later. His father sent 9-year-old Liam to the church boxing club. There, among swinging fists and ringing bells, the quiet boy learned how to fight before he learned how to speak his heart. By 14, he was a youth champion 3 years running. Then came the night that changed everything. A flash, a fist, and a clean hit he never saw coming. His head snapped back. He had taken a hard blow to the head. My brain just went, he remembered years later. It was very, very scary. That night, he walked away from the ring forever. After that, he trusted stillness more than joy. Rain became his friend. It was the sound of being poor. He once said, "You never forget that sound." But from that poverty, that loneliness, that silence, something unbreakable was born. When Liam Neeson left his small hometown in the early 1970s, he carried little more than a suitcase and a quiet promise to himself. Belfast was iron gray and mean. He was barely 17, working by day, studying by night. He drove trucks through freezing rain, carried heavy boxes until his hands bled. The cold bit through his clothes. At night, he came back to a rented room no larger than a prayer. When the nights grew too cold, he slept in his coat, shoes on. He tried college for a time, dreaming of becoming a teacher, but dreams cost money and hunger interrupts every class. When the money ran out, he left quietly. The years that followed were a long walk through uncertainty. I was close to giving up, he would later admit. I was 30, broke and angry with myself. In 1976, at 24, he found work sweeping the stage at the Lyric Players Theatre in Belfast. Within weeks, the janitor became an actor. On stage, he said later, "I finally felt heard." Still, being poor followed him like a shadow. He walked miles to the theater because bus fare was too expensive. When he moved to Dublin, then London, he lived in tiny apartments with strangers, sometimes sleeping on floors. Yet every night he stood beneath a dim light, saying words until they began to sound like truth. Slowly, the world began to answer. By the early 1980s, Liam Neeson's name was barely a whisper beyond a few small stages. "I just wanted to work," he would later say. His early screen roles paid enough for rent and bread, never both at once. The climb was cruel. Casting directors called him too intense, too rough, too Irish. Some said his eyes carried too much sadness for romance. Sometimes, he said, the only thing that kept me going was knowing I had nothing to go back to. During those years, he met Robert De Niro, whose quiet strength reshaped his craft. Stillness, De Niro told him, can be louder than rage. In 1993, Destiny called Schindler's List. Steven Spielberg saw in him what others missed. The role of Oscar Schindler would make him immortal and nearly break him. For 110 days of filming, he lived inside a man's guilt and grace. It took me months to feel like myself again, he admitted. The film won 7 Oscars. But fame, he discovered, makes loneliness bigger. Fame doesn't heal you, he said quietly. It just makes your silence louder. Between 2004 and 2008, he poured nearly $2 million of his own money into independent films critics praised and audiences ignored. Then at 56 came Taken. The film exploded. $223 million worldwide. The man who once struggled for rent became a symbol of lasting strength. Sequels came. His body began to hurt under constant motion. Work was oxygen, he said. I didn't know how to stop breathing. So what about his love life? It was 1981. On the set of Excalibur, a quiet man of 29 met a woman of 36 whose grace could silence every doubt he ever carried. Her name was Helen Mirren. For 4 years, they built a small, beautiful world of their own. She taught him how to move through for years passed like winter. Then came 1988. On the set of Satisfaction, he met a girl whose laughter broke through the frost. Julia Roberts was 20, all fire and sunlight. He was 36, quiet, careful. She made him laugh, a sound he hadn't heard from himself in years. Away from the cameras, they were surprisingly ordinary. They went for walks, shared late dinners. Once when she asked if he thought she'd make it, he answered, "You already have." But storms always find their way back. Her star began to rise faster than either could follow. There was no argument, no betrayal, just life pulling them apart. One evening as she packed, he said quietly, "You'll be wonderful." She turned, smiled sadly, and answered, "You already were." Years later, she would say, "He was the kindest man I'd ever met." Long before tragedy found him, it gave him a gift. Her. It was 1993 and Broadway shimmered. Liam Neeson, 41, stood beneath the stage lights of Anna Christie. Across from him stood Natasha Richardson, 30, born to the theater. By opening night, the line between acting and feeling had blurred. When the curtain fell, she turned to him and laughed, and he whispered, "Thank you for tonight." Months later, they were inseparable. In 1994, they were married in Millbrook, New York. He told a friend afterward, "For the first time in my life, I can breathe." Michael arrived in 1995. Daniel followed a year later. Natasha glowed in motherhood. Liam built a wooden swing in the backyard. They lived without show. "She was my compass," he said once. "She was my home, my silence, and my peace." Those 15 years were ordinary in the most extraordinary way. It began on a day so bright it felt immune to sorrow. It was March 2009. Natasha had gone skiing near Montreal. Just a simple fall, a bump, a smile. She brushed it off. Hours later, the headache came and it didn't leave. He was in Toronto filming when the call came. When he reached the hospital, a doctor took him aside. "Her brain is dead," he said quietly. He walked into her room. Natasha lay there still, peaceful. He touched her hand and whispered, "Sweetie, you're not coming back from this." He kept the promise they'd made years earlier. He nodded to the doctors. The machine stopped. Natasha's heart kept beating, but for others. Her organs were donated, saving 3 lives. She's keeping 3 people alive. I think she would have wanted that. But when the machine stopped, something inside him stopped too. "I think I died that day too," he confessed. "But I kept breathing because she would have wanted me to." Grief is a patient guest. After Natasha's death, Liam Neeson didn't collapse. He moved because moving was the only way not to feel. Sleep became a stranger. He filled the emptiness with work. Taken, the A-Team, The Gray. "I needed to do that film to channel my grief," he said of The Gray. He moved from set to set, city to city. People said he looked strong. They didn't see the shake in his hands when the camera stopped. In the years that followed, he met British publicist Freya St. Johnston. For a while, he tried. After 2 years quietly, they let each other go. In 2024, when asked if he could ever love again, he said only, "No, I'm past all that." His sons carry the loss in different ways. Michael changed his last name to Richardson. Every February, he visits her resting place. Some loves don't fade. They change form. For Liam Neeson, grief isn't something to escape. It's something to carry. Life had already tested his heart, but the body has its own cruel ways. It was the year 2000. A motorcycle, a clear road, and then impact. A deer on the road. He was thrown from the bike. His pelvis was shattered in multiple places. Recovery was slow, merciless. Then came the films that demanded strength his body no longer wanted to give. His knees carried decades of impact. On screen, he looked immortal. Off screen, he walked slower. Now at age 73, Liam Neeson stands as a portrait of endurance. His net worth, estimated between $120 and $145 million, is the result of a lifetime of steady work. He lives comfortably, but not ostentatiously. His generosity is known. He has quietly supported numerous humanitarian organizations. His two sons are now grown men. Recently, rumors have circulated about a newfound companionship with Pamela Anderson. Whether friendship or something more, it represents a quiet openness. Today, Liam Neeson's story is not one of survival alone, but of grace. Each winter, he visits Natasha's resting place. Each morning, he walks, stretches, feels the ache, and thanks his body for still carrying him. What remains is humanity. In his silence, in his scars, in his refusal to give up, Liam Neeson reminds us that strength is not about how loud you roar. It's about how quietly you endure.